Professor Sanjay Govindhate, great to see you after 15 years. Professor Biswajit Das, my fellow Hamsafars. I must thank you for this more than generous comment. But as one turns 70 next month, I look at 50 years of my professional life having actually achieved very little. One has been trying to do the work you are now giving critical institutional and pedagogical framework to. So my deepest appreciation and wishes. Has Professor Biswajit also left us?
No, he will come in.
Okay. Well, I actually walked into the old centre a month ago, thinking this meeting was a month back. And I was very excited. It means I've been holding on to this for about a month. And I was told as I walked away politely that the dates were all messed up. And my dates and my office thought it was a month earlier. So I'm delighted. I'm still here. I've been delighted to not be a chief guest because I tend to stay all 2 days and learn from this, because this has been the work of the last 5 decades in my life, and I still am growing, still learning. I do think it's the first of its kind deliberation for an institution dedicated to pedagogy, and I have tried to do that in many places. I've seen parts of it, but the fact that creative and cultural industry is about synergy, that 2 plus 2 can be not 4, is something that the Vice Chancellor alluded to, but it's true. And synergy is something that hasn't been taken on.
Could I just wait for your speaker is on the screen? I can't hear you.
I want to take it a little back. I think there was an interesting tale there. This has been a short enough introduction, but with your permission, because I really look forward to the keynote, but if I may indulge a little background of how this came to be in terms of my own life. Professor Biswajit, thank you ever so much. I said it's really the first institution that I know that has taken on in this internet sector as a whole, and the synergy that you give to it is something I look forward to for all 2 days, not just as a chief guest here for the next half an hour. So, in the 40s of the last century, Theodore Adorno, who was a cultural theorist in the US, first coined this very provocative adage, combining 2 seemingly conflicting terms of industry with culture. He was alarmed with the appropriation of common cultural asset by the capitalist machinery. And Adorno's preoccupations were different to how we in India must perceive cultural enterprise as supporting millions of livelihoods. So it's self-empowering, it's self-organized, it's not owned by anybody, it's not being appropriated as easily, because it's very difficult. So how do culture and creative enterprises serve the global knowledge economy? Now, I had the choice of showing slides, but I still didn't know what the configuration of the hall would be like. I remember my visit to the center and I didn't know anything about it. So you will have to see facts without the ubiquitous PowerPoints and a few evocative pictures. But to tell you really how handicrafts of IT is really propelled China's rise as a global economy. And CCI contributions, it's 11% to the US GDP, 10% to South Korea's. It adds £8 million an hour to the UK economy, where it accounts almost for 8% of the GDP, growing by an average of 9% per annum from an average of 2.8 for the whole economy. Korea, in fact, mapped 4,000 skill sets in the CCI, establishing the Korea Content Development Authority more than almost 12 years ago. What the global market wants is CCI's original content. That's what knowledge societies are about. And in G7 countries, 50% of consumer spending is on CCI outputs. Now, so in this transition to a knowledge-based economy, the creative and cultural industries have become the most rapidly growing phenomena in the world. As an artist, I'm nervous about statistics, but I have lots of pictures which I'd be happy to share if we find the time during the course of the next 2 days to project, which would be more visually more garrulous, but perhaps more communicative. Now, the World Bank, about 2000 millennium, the President James Wolfenson set up a group as mentors to the bank. I was also invited. It was Amartya Sen, Dr. Char, and Yo-Yo Ma, to help define the role of legacy and heritage with design-led intervention, boosting tentative economies on the brink of globalization. And at UNESCO, the Jodhpur Consensus, held in February 2005, I think, we first defined cultural industries as those industries which produce tangible or intangible artistic and creative outputs, having a potential for wealth creation and income generation through the utilization of cultural assets and production of knowledge-based goods and services, both traditional and contemporary. What cultural industries have in common is that they all use creativity, cultural knowledge, and intellectual property to produce products and services with social and cultural meaning. That's the official definition that we've been trying to position in various forums, from UNESCO to WTO to the bank and to the government of India. However, in 2006, I was asked to steer a task force on creative and cultural industry at the Planning Commission, India. And we found that we have a very inviolable position of having a very large variety of living skill-based traditions, but completely unmapped. Even the Planning Commission statistics at that time, when I was putting all the work together, ranged from 6 million to 200 million. And the Department of Statistics enumerated what skills would be. They were following a pattern that was not ours. And we were still struggling with the very word creative and culture seen coherently as an industry. Now, India's advantage is that we have a nascent and expanding design and media industry, and a number of highly versatile, creative people capable of carrying this unique legacy further. But first, they must learn that working with hands or training one's body is as modern and therefore not dispensable. We always throw the baby with the bathwater. And the most contemporary creative expressions can help us reposition our traditional knowledge and thereby create original content into the global market. So at the Planning Commission, I was absolutely sure that we were not going to ghettoize tradition and keep that as one end and traditional arts as the other. Even when the arts and crafts colleges, the Mayo College of Arts and Crafts, the JJ College of Arts and Crafts, the presidency in the colonial with the excess baggage of colonial thinking. They're seen us as the other. They were seen together, and there was no hierarchy. Again, here there was a problem. How are we going to connect? And I feel that is the strength we have. That they coexist. Contemporary artists can inform themselves, educate themselves with skills that are around the corner, literally, just as traditional artists can gain from a worldview that comes with contemporary painters and all other artists performing in otherwise. So at that time, it was very essential to make a classification system for CCI for India. As I said, the statistical survey programs implementation were outdated. So we attempted that, and it's more visual, but I will, for the lack of being able to show this, I will just give you top headlines. It's handicrafts, building arts and antiquities, where practitioners, training institutes, manufacturing units, infrastructure and support systems. 2, handmade textiles and made arts, again the same people. 3, indigenous technologies, conservation and architecture, which includes firms and consultations and support systems. 4, design and fine arts and plastic arts, performing and ritual arts and services. And these include artists graduated from schools, gharanas, artist studios, and infrastructure and support systems. Then there's literature and publishing, 7. 8, audiovisual and digital media, motion media and broadcasting, which includes television. Advertising and public relations, films, firms, professionals, education institutions, etc. And then creative retailing, huge sector for India. There was vocational education and training, cultural studies, such as your own center. There are several, but I wonder if they've all been networked and mapped around the country. We know how many they are. Events, fairs and festivals, health, healing and beauty, foods and culinary arts, cultural and ecological, hospitality, trade, leisure and sports, and cottage industries. So it's a huge canvas. And when you say mapping, it's not just the individual protagonists and stakeholders, even those that are involved in making all this possible to create capacity. Our planning commission effort failed to do anything. And maybe even the Niti Aayog, I was there about a month ago speaking to 17 secretaries, explaining why, while they have their fortresses to guard and keep, it's important to learn, to share, to not duplicate. And there are specific ministries that touch on this, touch in different ways, but there is no coherent. So of course the former vice chairperson and Amitabh and everybody very excited. I've yet to see what happens, because I think when things become, which they essentially are, people tend to get a little wary and they don't know what first step to take, which is where I think mapping is so critical. And that will help. Whatever you can measure, you can plan. If you can't measure it, there is no thinking that can come for it. Now, when this happened, of course, I had a practical way. The World Bank said, "Why are we wasting time? Why don't you go straight into the villages and start working?" So I took 5 states. There's the Andhra Pradesh, now Telangana, also Bihar, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, and Odisha. And we started to work in this, and we set up the first creative and cultural industry brand called Geo, private limited company. It is owned by the stakeholders themselves. And many sanghas were set up all around. Maybe in the session that I'm supposed to speak tomorrow, I could ask the Asian Heritage Foundation's director to visually explain what Geo has been doing, because that gives a much more visual idea of what we are talking about. I think we keep speaking, the senses shrink. Now, so the model that we had for this arrival of Swadeshi, indigenous brand for the 21st century, we call Geo. By the way, this Geo is before the more powerful Geo. The very powerful people had to take our permission, and they could only spell it as J-I-O, because ours was registered as J-I-Y-O. So the permission had to be taken, and then they called it Geo with another name, which I couldn't contest. But we had Geo Live, Geo Homes, Geo Style, Geo Motion, Geo Habitat, Geo Media, Geo Learning, Geo Wellbeing, and Geo Foods. But more about that tomorrow, if it needs to be detailed. Now, in the last few years of my life, I'm trying to put all the eggs in one basket. Now, I have been thinking for a long time, but it's now come together. And I sort of rather formally wanted to use this occasion to give this to the Vice Chancellor in his absence. I just ask you to take it and perhaps hand it to him if necessary. But it's about South Asian University for Creative and Culture. Only the first copy out of my office printing, it's desktop, so that you can share it with whoever you think will add more to it. I'm a very copyleft person. There is nothing that is copyrighted. Please use it the way you want to. However, this concept of the university is conceived as a transdisciplinary pedagogic initiative proposing to structure and augment Indian subcontinent's vital creative and cultural sector. It will build, if you saw the top part, I use South Asia as a means to make it more imaginative, more exciting. We tend to otherwise go into a groove of India. And we invented a very simple slogan for this. It's diversity, connectivity, empowerment, peace, which we thought went well with the positioning of South Asia. Now, to build an institutional framework consisting of transversal facilities, mapping guidelines, classifying the skills, providing an experiential learning ecology, addressing design-led imperatives. It will develop unique course modules to study time-honored and evolving knowledge systems. SOC will fuel, I don't like that word, we have to invent a new word, will fuel the future for rural and urban economies by creating original content in sync with field-based efforts while enhancing the value chains for the skilled keepers of our collective heritage. SOC will incubate and accelerate innovative models in legacy-based products and services, channeling new careers towards economic development, conflict resolution, livelihoods, poverty alleviation, micro-entrepreneurship, and sustainability. And it will grow to become the nerve center for coordination in South Asia's legacy enterprises. It will support seminal projects in the field that reconcile frictions between people, technology, and nature, between old and the new, urban and rural, the east and the west, that are manifest in cultural industries. Now, these are aims, but I would like to say that if such a center came up, I seek the guidance of all those around this room and that we gather in the next 2 days to flesh its terms of reference. What you see right now is the first draft. It's not set to any stone. But I would like to say that I'm quite sure that I will pledge my entire collection, which is about 100,000 objects, textiles, 25,000, 60,000 books. Whoever decides to do this and take it up to the next stage, I will be more than honored to gift this entire thing to them. There have been people talking about it. One has to be careful how commerce and education has to be more careful, and that has to come up. Now, all these new brands, Skilling India, Brand India, Digital India, where can it take India moving towards, India that's already moving towards automation and robotics? Invariably, with 12 million people every year coming on the road with nothing to do, the answers are not going to be the industry that we are seeking to support. The answers will come from the sector which we are ill-prepared to address at the moment. So I truly congratulate you for having taken up the step to do something which I think is of seminal importance to the country as a whole. I think that in this mapping it's going to be very tricky. How do you map the sector when it really is, it's like five blind men defining an elephant, and you know the story. But just to give you an idea on craft, something that I've heard very intimately, there are 12 different kinds of classification. So it's not very simple just to say woodwork or ironwork or embroidery or textiles. These are people who go into so many different panels. There are 12 different systems of classification which I'd be happy to share at an appropriate session. But remember, there are vast number of people that are very skilled that have never been even counted. If you look at what the handloom board will tell you as the number of looms in this country, they'll say 8 lakhs. The moment you add northeast to it, the figure will double because every home has it. It's never been counted. Many, the Mithila painters, were never counted as craftspeople. They were doing Biti Chitra as people, as part of their ritual. Today, those same women who were best when they were child widows, unfortunately, have all the men mixing colors for them and holding it to them, while it becomes a very empowering exercise for the women. They too have not been. There are innovative crafts and skills that have not been. I just see Jaya here. Jaya will, I'm sure in her session, point out to how do we define this. So individual artisan families practicing inherited caste occupations in scattered regions. The clusters of artisan families and guild-like groups occasionally forming whole villages or settlements around religious institutions. I've given examples of each, but I won't have time. Semi or non-commercial craft skills inherent to the day-to-day work of rural folk making things for themselves. Itinerant artists and traders, guild-like groups of artisans forming whole townships as focal facility in a region to produce a range of products using one or more raw materials and a host of allied skills, not just one skill. So, migrant rural artisans resettled or part-time residents of towns and cities, often living in neighborhoods. Migrant urban artisans moving to major trade centers. Artisan inhabitants of cities, often living in artisan neighborhoods. Deprived groups, especially women and children, who have developed skills and are used as cheap labor force in commercial setups. Skilled groups have engaged in ephemeral and ritual expression from taziyas to Ramleelas to Brahmins to pandals. The details are very interesting because these don't feature in any of the mapping exercises. The derivative, non-traditional and innovative makers which are doing things that have no tradition, that have no background to see what they've been doing. Now, so this, कहते ना दस्तकार है दरिया, काबिलों की उम्र भर जाती है, खुद कर लो हिसाब, हुनरमंद का एक दिन, हुनर का एक साल. So we are really looking at a huge sector which will keep growing as you keep discovering. And some of the alarming facts that I would like to point out here, that the word culture or cultural creative industries is still not mentioned in this one of our new programs on smart cities. So traditional artists in a smart city program need to be really explored. Many artists have come and settled around here. I was going to move that with Sunday song, but I'll end here. The Bhule Visse Kalakar Sehkari Samiti is a case in point where many scattered, forgotten, itinerant performing artists found themselves brought to their place, and they've been bulldozed and now are in transit camps. So I think that we really have to keep talking about the importance of centrality of culture. Sahitya, Sangeet, Kala Vahi, Sakshat, Ashu, Achu Vishe, Vina, Visha Nahi. अर्थात साहित्य संगीत और कला के वही में अशु के समान. And if I may just end this with a animal melody, I would talk about the musk deer. Kasturi kundali kasri, lig dhute dharmai. What is inherent with us, we don't know. We go stamping around trying to find it. So with that I will